do. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Starlight Beacon Transmissions. This is episode number 93. We've had 93 of these between recorded regular shows and our live shows, and that doesn't even mention all of our bursts that we do too. So yeah, we're 93 episodes into this experiment. We'll see how it goes. But this is our weekly live show. We have a fun show for you tonight. Before we get into all of the fun topics, I am joined by my good friend Leah, who was a member of the High Republic Hype House at Star Wars Celebration Europe, who's one of the lucky ducks that got to read Path of Vengeance. No, it's fine. It's fine, Leah. I'm, you know me. FOMO was real that week,
Understandably.
but I'm really happy that you went because it was nice to have somebody that I know or a few people that I know that went. Before we get into everything, well, let me say what our topics are, and then I'm going to ask you about Celebration and your experience there. Um, So our topics tonight, we are going to be talking about the 40th anniversary of Return of the Jedi. Both Leah and I rewatched this movie for this discussion. I just saw this in theaters today, which was pretty epic. And then we are going to be sharing spoiler-free thoughts on Jedi Survivor because we are not finished the game yet. And
I
it's a
can
long
only
one.
game so fast.
I know.
I
It's
have
a
a
long
job.
game. Exactly. It is a long game because it
Yeah.
apparently it clocks in at 30 hours, which is pretty long, but it's worth it in my opinion, especially for this story.
And that's
Uh
30 hours if you're good at combat.
yeah, that's also 30 hours if you do everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, and from what I hear there's still more to do even after the 30 hours. So we'll
That's
see.
exciting.
Yeah, and then we are going to also talk that's actually going to transition us into the High Republic, and I'm going to share some thoughts on Cataclysm, and then you can give me your spoiler-free reactions to Path of Vengeance
Oh gosh.
if you
Yeah.
want to. If not, if
I'll
you're
have to
afraid that
bring
you're going to
over my
spoil
copy
something.
of Path of Vengeance just so you can see how many sticky tabs I've put in it. I went
Um,
through 3 packs of sticky tabs on my first reading, and then a fourth
jeez,
pack on my second reading.
nice. If you feel like you can do it spoiler free, then share your thoughts on
I
it.
mean,
But
yeah,
yeah,
I think I can do it spoiler.
yeah, yeah. Because I want to hear your thoughts on it. I
Yeah.
definitely do. So let's get to some announcements and then I'll get into your thing about or your experience with Celebration. Announcements: no live show next week as we are going to be out of town. We're doing a Star Wars night at a minor league baseball stadium on Saturday. So that's going to be fun, in which I debut a cosplay next week. So stay tuned for that. He may be a Jedi droid smith
Ooh,
from Batu. Yeah,
very nice.
that's all I'm going to say for right now because I was thinking, you know what? Maybe I should have a lightsaber and maybe I should be like a Jedi droid smith like Rama Lama Jamma Rama.
Ramalama Jamarama.
Yeah, yeah.
Ah,
So there's that. And then we will have no live show the weekend of Father's Day because we are going to be at AwesomeCon in DC, and we have a High Republic panel that weekend. We are still waiting on the date for that, but it's going to be myself, Bria Lavorgna, and Justina Ireland is going to be there. And she's also confirmed for the convention as well as a guest for the book fair, right? Yeah, for the book
yes.
fair. Yeah, she's on their website. Last year they had Timothy's on, and meeting him was so much fun. So Yeah, I met him a couple of times. I got him to sign a lot of stuff. Um, anyway, so if you want to come to DC, any of you want to come to DC that weekend and have a miniature Star Wars celebration that wasn't at Star Wars Celebration, join us for that. Anyway, Leah, you went to Celebration Europe,
Yes.
just for the Book of Boba Fett news, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I went for one thing and one thing only. I mean, I kind of did go for one thing and one thing only, if we're being completely honest, and that's the High Republic. It's just that it happens to be a really good time to be a High Republic fan.
Yes, absolutely.
Because we got Acolyte news, we got, of course, High Republic news. Um,
Nubs.
some people, myself not included, got that first look at the first couple episodes of Young Jedi Adventures, which I'm far too excited for my age bracket. Everyone talks about Nubs. For me, it's all about Nash.
Yeah.
We just love pilots in this
Oh yeah.
household. Yeah. I had a grand old time there. I cosplayed all 4 days. High Republic cosplays 3 of the 4 days.
Nice.
And it's always good to be able to bring to life your gluppier shithoes. So day one, of course, I was Ishnar T. Karatal, who even to High Republic fans, I often have to explain who she is. For the unaware, she's the Nikto guard from the Hutts, who ends up joining the Padawans on Starlight Beacon. Lula, Zine, Farzala.
I forgot about
and
that.
definitely develops a crush on Farzala, which is very funny because it seems he is completely unaware and she is just like constantly flirting with him, and it's my favorite thing. Yeah. Day 2 and 3, I was Yana Rowe, High Republic, Phase 2. Probably my favorite character of Phase 2.
She's a great character.
She's fantastic.
Yeah.
If there's one thing that'll always get me, it's a sad lesbian. And day 4, I was Vukora from the Bounty Hunters comics, and also from the Dr. Opera comics, and also all the crossovers.
Nice. I love the deep dive with the Bounty Hunters cosplay.
Yes.
That's awesome.
And the Bounty Hunters cosplay actually led to a very interesting thing on the 4th day. So those of us who were in Bounty Hunters cosplay and who regularly interact with Ethan Sachs, because he's very easy to interact with.
Yes, very much so.
He secured us VIP tickets for the Marvel Comics panel. So we got to sit in a special little area.
Nice.
So all of us cosplayers were there. And he said, hey, meet me up by the side of the stage. We'll get a picture there after the panel. Great.
That's awesome.
Panel's good. We go up to meet him after we go up to the side of the stage. And he's like, oh, your cosplays look great. And then who should walk up to join us? There's already a group that includes Ethan Sachs. But Matt Martin.
Oh, from Story Group.
From Story Group.
Nice.
Who I had actually met on the 2nd day of Celebration because he wanted a picture of my Yana cosplay. But he comes up to us and says, your cosplays are all fantastic. We have the professional photo area backstage. Do you all want to come back and get the professional photos?
That's amazing.
So yeah, we got kidnapped by Lucasfilm for the next 2 hours because we got pulled back there. We got pulled into a video interview. We got pictures of some of the creators. I gave my buttons to Christina Ariel and Kristen Baver. Yeah, it was just great back there. It was very strange, very unexpected. But I'm glad that it happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I love hearing stories of that, like especially with the creators interacting with the fans like that.
The creators are all, I mean, at least the creators who I've had the pleasure of meeting,
Mhm.
have all been fantastic.
Yeah.
You know, at the High Republic meetup on the second day of celebration, where we had all the High Republic cosplayers and we had all the authors who were there, including the newest author of the High Republic, Alyssa Wong. They're
Yes.
fantastic.
Mhm.
They were moved to tears by seeing how many people were so supportive of them joining the High Republic.
Alyssa's great.
They're fantastic.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's just getting to interact with the creators there. It's just so awesome, and they're so passionate about it. I had a little stuffed leveler, and I handed it to each of the authors who I could get. Kevin, unfortunately, was swarmed.
Of course.
And I handed them this little leveler and said, "Hey, can you pose with this however you want, and I'll get a picture."
Mhm.
And the variety of poses is fantastic.
Nice.
Alyssa Wong is like strangling it. Daniel Jose Older is like afraid of it. George Mann is like holding it up like he caught a fish. Dr. Kang is holding it like it's a puppy or something. It's just very. They're all fantastic. They're all amazing people. I love getting to meet them. All of the new additions have been fantastic. They mesh so well. George, Dr. Kang, Alyssa, the group seems to mesh really well, and they've put out really good stories. And
and real quick, the phase 2 was the New Kids on the Block.
Yes.
For the most part, except for Kevin and Justina.
Phase 2, at least the book side of it, was dominated by the New Guard.
Yeah.
And it looks like we're gonna get a lot of them also in phase 3 from what announcements we had. They are finishing off with the same 3 authors who started it.
Yeah.
Which I also like. But it's nice that, you know, Tessa and Zoraida and George and Dr. Kang and Alyssa are all getting their due in phase 3 as well.
Yeah. So I want to ask you real quick about because I saw the photos, the crowds look to be kind of unmanageable.
Yes, the queues were so poorly managed. A lot of the photos that you see of the really bad crowds were from day one, right after the showcase panel let out.
Okay.
So it's going to be bad right after that.
Yeah.
But yeah, all 4 days, the Forbidden Planet booth, so that was the booth that was predominantly selling books, and was the only one where you could get the exclusive books, so Timelines, Path of Vengeance, the High Republic Phase 2 comic, first trade paperback, and a couple other things that I can't remember off the top of my head. It was always swamped. It was always impossible to get in the line because they only had like 3 tills and only 2 of them were working at any given time.
Jeez.
Whereas at Celebration last year, I want to say they had like 8. They had so many last year.
Yeah.
And and they also had the lines all intermingling for author signings, which made it really hard to get an author signing if you weren't like first in line.
Yeah.
Which is it's annoying and it's unfortunate, and you would think that they would be better at setting up queues in London. But alas, there were too many Americans there. Yeah.
So I mean, I've never been to Excel Center because I've never been to London. Is it smaller than Anaheim Convention Center?
It's hard to say because it's laid out entirely differently. So it's kind of hard to make that one-to-one comparison in my head.
Okay. No,
Um,
that's fair. That's
yeah.
fair.
And the other questionable choice is that, unlike pretty much every other convention that happens at the XL, you
Mhm.
couldn't go outside and come back in without going back through security, which
Okay.
did keep people a lot more contained and built up the crowd a lot more
Yeah, that makes
than
sense.
it would have otherwise. Because if you look at things from MCM or any of the other big conventions
Mhm.
that happen at the XL, you'll see a lot of people going out into the kind of green space that they have, the trees, getting photos.
Yeah.
We did do that. It's just you have to go all the way back through security to get back in,
Mhm.
which disincentivizes it
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
makes it really a hassle.
Yeah.
We did
See
get
that.
pictures of Ella, Cheriel on social
Mhm.
media, the fantastic fan artist, of her in her Comic Vitus cosplay running into the trees, which of course we had to get.
Yeah.
Once we knew that there was a Comac there and we knew that there were the trees there, we were like,
We have to.
the
Yeah.
opportunity
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
has
Yeah.
revealed itself.
Yeah. And of course, Daniel
Yeah,
and Claudia both need to see that because
of course.
they're he's their
Uh,
baby.
yeah, yeah. Unfortunately, Claudia couldn't make it to the High Republic meetup.
Yeah.
She was sick.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, Daniel had a field day with the Midnight Horizon cosplay group that got put together.
Nice.
Yeah, right. Say missing, presumed dead on 3.
I mean, that sounds pretty incredible, and it sounds like an amazing weekend.
Yeah.
And like I said, I saw pictures and videos that you all were posting, and
Yes.
it was just really cool to see all you, you know, just having a good time and just embracing it
Yeah.
and celebrating this thing. And I gotta tell you, it sucked trying to watch that live stream
I'm
because of the time
sure.
difference.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Because of the time
Um,
difference.
and Japan's not going to be much better.
I was actually just about to ask you, are you gonna make the trek in 2 years?
I am not currently planning on it.
Okay. We can have a celebration for those not at celebration in
Yeah,
25.
that's that idea has been tossed around.
Yeah, yeah.
And this isn't me digging at the idea of having
Yeah.
celebration in Japan. I
Mhm.
just want to make that clear. Like, I love that they're
Yes.
having these available for fans in different parts of the world. You know,
Absolutely.
like, it would be very um, I mean, there's already enough unfairness with how things will be only released in the United States or
Mhm.
much easier to get in the United
Yeah.
States. Case in point, anything published by Dark Horse.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's just nice to have it elsewhere.
Yeah.
Um, it just it's a little far afield.
Yeah, it is. And it's a lot more expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I mean, I'm I'm on the same page here. I mean, they had Celebration in Japan before.
yes,
It was a big hit over there. I mean, I love the fact that yeah, there are more countries and more fan communities that are able to access Star
yes.
Wars and are able to go to Celebration and everything. So bring it on. I was really hoping for Orlando. I know a lot of us were hoping for Orlando. It was I was telling my wife, I was like, so Tokyo got it or Japan got announced. We didn't get Orlando. And I said, you know what? I'm okay with this because I know in 27 it's coming back stateside.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Most likely. Though I
Yeah.
feel like if we because I feel like there was a lot of like, oh, it's gonna be in Orlando, it's gonna be back in the US, and then it's in Japan. So I feel like if it's very possible that we'll just be like, yeah, and it's gonna be back stateside next time. It's gonna and then they're gonna announce that it's in Johannesburg.
Yeah,
Um
exactly. Or Sydney
and
or someplace.
um and Yeah, but wherever it is, if you build it, they will come. Star Wars fans will show up. We're everywhere. There are more of us and all that.
Oh yeah. So I want to ask one more question.
Go for it.
And
I
this
feel like I've
is no,
monopolized enough of the show
no,
time.
you're fine. No, I am loving hearing about your experience here. So don't apologize for that at all. My final question is here, and it goes to kind of what we've been talking about with toxicity in the community and everything. I'm sure you saw the tweets from the one guy that was calling for the violence and stuff at Celebration.
I didn't
I
see it.
want
I heard of it.
I want to ask you, did you feel safe at Celebration? Like did security like really do their job?
I mean, it seemed like it's European security, not U.S. security, so they're
Yeah.
screening in different ways and whatever.
Mhm.
But I mean, I didn't feel any more unsafe at Celebration than I felt anywhere in
Okay.
London.
Okay.
And I didn't feel any more unsafe in London than I feel in any major city.
Okay.
That being said, I am a city person. I live in Los Angeles. I
Yeah.
navigate cities regularly, but yeah, I mean, the fans that I interacted with at Celebration were all amazing.
Okay.
Everyone was just excited to be there. Everyone was excited for the panels. My friend's solo panel was packed. The room was filled to the brim. The panel that I was on, I mean, it was the last panel of the day, so it wasn't packed, but it had a good turnout. People were excited to be there. People were excited to see things. People were excited to experience new things. We had people coming into our books and comics panel being like, I didn't even know that there were books and comics that are like canon and being made. And it's just fun. Everyone was excited.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
No, I'm glad that you had a good time. I'm glad that you felt safe. I just wanted to make sure that you all did feel safe with all of that going on that weekend, because I got to tell you, a lot of us were worried about you guys because because people are crazy and people are terrible at times.
People are crazy. People are terrible at times, but the bulk of people aren't. And in my experience, the bulk of threats are empty.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I agree. Yeah. But I'm glad that you had a great time. Welcome back. I'm sure the adjustment back to Pacific time was a little rough.
I am a great strategic plane sleeper, so I am very lucky in that regard. I have never really been hit with jet lag.
Nice.
I did get hit with con crud, but I got over it quickly.
Okay. Yeah, because I saw also a few people were testing positive for COVID too.
Yeah. Everything's all right now, so we're good.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. So let's get into our first topic here. We're going to talk about Return of the Jedi. Actually, we are going to do a solo show at the end of the month. We are going to talk about Solo for its 5th anniversary. So just an FYI. But let's talk Return of the Jedi and how this is the greatest Star Wars movie ever made. And I am not being sarcastic about that. That it's that amazing.
It's got one of the quintessential Jedi moments. Maybe the quintessential Jedi moment.
It does.
There's something so powerful about a Jedi stating a fact. You know, you've got, I'm a Jedi like my father before me. And like that is the entire argument that he has to make. Because even if you only have the original trilogy, you know what that means. And I mean, it's got Wicket, you know?
It does have Wicket. It
It's got
does.
Wicket W. Warwick,
Yeah.
star of everyone's actual favorite Star Wars movie, Ewoks Battle for Endor.
That's a deep dive. That is a deep dive.
You would be surprised. Ewoks Nation is large and growing. We were chomping at the bit for Alyssa Wong's Ewoks one shot.
I do have to pick that up.
It's really good. Have you read Last Shot?
I
So
read
we're
Last
already
Shot,
off
yeah.
topic.
Yeah,
Pika is in
Yes,
Alyssa's Ewoks comic.
nice.
But yeah, back to Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
It's just so good, and the good guys win, and that always feels good.
Yeah. I love this movie so much, not just because of the story of Vader's redemption, but for it's getting the original band back together.
Yes.
And they spend a good chunk of the movie together before they have to split them up, which is fine.
Yeah, they don't get split up until over halfway through.
Yeah. And then when they come together at the end, it's so earned because of their journeys. The whole Jabba's palace thing, I love the Jabba's palace sequence so much. Jedi Rocks is still an amazing song. I don't care what you think. That song kicks so much ass.
I would be a fake friend of Tommy Stella if I didn't bring up that Jabba's palace gave us the most important character in Star Wars,
Droopy McCool.
We're always hoping for more Droopy McContent.
Oh yeah, Droopy McContent.
The Droopy McCannon is kind of thin, but
yeah,
you know, it's getting.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm always struck by how much I misremember how long each part of the movie takes. Because they have Han out of the carbonite pretty quickly at the start.
Yeah, they do. They really do.
They really wanted to get that band back together, but still, it feels earned. Like you see the amount of planning that went into it. You see the layers. You see how they very obviously told everyone except 3PO what was going on.
Yes.
Which I feel is best exemplified in a scene that I know gets lampooned, but is actually one of my favorite scenes in the movie, which is the brass bleats as it's going from character to character, like as they're kind of nodding to each other, like knowing what's about to happen.
Yes.
And the fact that 3PO is conspicuously absent from that, because he has no clue what's going on. Followed, of course, by my actual favorite scene, which is Luke's silly little salute.
Luke's salute is the best.
Luke's silly little left-hand salute, like,
yes.
Good job.
that whole sequence has one of my favorite exchanges. It's when Lando's on the side of the pit, and then the tentacle grabs him, and then Han's just like, hold still, and then he's like, I thought that you couldn't see. It's okay, I can see a lot better now.
It's okay, you see a lot better now. Everything from when Han got out until they get off Tatooine has just the best every Han Solo moment is quotable, but it's got you're gone for a little while. Everyone's got delusions of grandeur. You've got how we doing? Same as always. That bad, huh? You've got I was born here, you know. You're gonna die here, you know.
How convenient. One of my favorite bits with the delusions of grandeur thing is Chewie's just hugging him, and then he's just like, "I'm all right, pal. I'm all right, pal." Like he just keeps telling Chewie that he's okay.
I feel like I mean we've seen Solo. I feel like Chewie must have been like, "Oh, it's just like the first time we met."
I was thinking about that today.
Yeah.
Like when we were just watching it.
I haven't really noticed it before, but they very intentionally seem to have shot in Solo them in the pit very similarly. Like lighting is similar. The angles are played similarly to Han and Chewie in Jabba's prison.
Yeah.
It's shot very similarly. I love when cinemas.
Yes.
Uh,
and it is like poetic justice to that movie. Like you're just sitting there and like I was just sitting there and I'm like how fitting is it for them to meet again in the same
to
circumstances
meet
that they
again
met
in the
the
same
first time.
circumstances. Yeah.
Yeah. It's so great. And then this is actually, but outside of Solo, this movie is the funniest that Han Solo has ever been.
Absolutely. he's fully tossed aside his bad boy routine from A New Hope, and he's not constantly under duress as he is in Empire Strikes Back. Because the entire Empire Strikes Back, he's like slowly losing it because his ship is falling apart underneath him.
Yes.
And which is played very well.
But, it is.
I do like when we can get Goofy Han in Return of the Jedi, because he's a goofy guy.
He really is.
And it's played really well because like he's a goofy guy, but he's not the comic relief. Like that's still 3PO.
Yeah, and the Ewoks.
Yeah.
But
though the Ewoks are also one of the most tragic scenes in the movie.
We were talking about that.
There's definitely going to be that story
in
Fakpov, right?
Yeah, I think we're gonna get the funeral for that one Ewok that died. No, yeah, I'm sure there's tons that.
But there's the one in particular where the Ewok falls and the other Ewok is like lamenting.
Yeah, like holding on to him.
Yeah, it's that's a scene that they put in.
But it also shows you the horrors of war.
And without a single understandable word spoken.
Yeah.
Phenomenal.
It shows you how fast like innocence can go in a brief moment.
This was also one of the battle on Endor is one of the more interesting and like you get drawn in combat sequences in the original trilogy. Because there's so much going on, but like you don't get lost in it. It strikes that because like things kind of like the Battle of Hoth is great, but it's all on just this plain white background.
Yeah.
And you kind of get lost in the everythingness of it all. But like this feels much more simultaneously intimate and expansive.
It feels like the street battle in Jeddah City that we get in Rogue One.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Because it's very in your face guerrilla style warfare. Like because if you look at it, the Ewoks get up close and personal on those stormtroopers and take them down.
It's one of those scenes where you're like, oh right, George was inspired by the Vietnam War to make these movies.
Yeah.
And you see it in that whole sequence, and it's done really like. I have my problems with how the Ewoks fall into a lot of anti-native, anti-indigenous tropes.
Yeah.
But
I can see that.
They're still played very well, and they're still very clearly portrayed positively, which is good. And also the Ewoks, they're beloved. They have their non-canon spin-off movies and TV show and their canon comics, and I feel like Kevin Scott tries to write more Ewoks every chance he gets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we also have Ewok Hunt now in Battlefront 2, which is still creepy as hell, but a lot of fun. Um, but I also want to go to the Battle of Endor here, and then I want to get to the battle on the Death Star, and then the
Mhm.
space battle, of course. But with the Battle of Endor, it's really cool to see what is now Captain Rex with that Pathfinder team that
I
Solo
think
is leading.
I think the guy with the Pathfinder team might still be a different person, but we
Is it
know that
still?
Rex was also there.
Yeah.
It's
You know who I'm
unclear.
talking about,
I know
the
exactly who
bearded
you're talking
yeah,
about,
yeah,
but
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, because my wife's like, "There's Captain Rex," and I'm like, "Yeah, okay, I'll give it to you. I'll give it to you. That's
yeah.
fine." Uh, um,
We do know that Rex was there. It's just
yeah,
I don't think he's that guy,
mhm,
which I'm fine with because, it's, yeah,
yeah.
I'm fine with that.
But
There
I
could be
also,
more than one guy with a white beard in the entire
of course,
rebellion.
I mean, look at the one general that was in A New Hope that had a white beard.
Exactly.
Yeah, I was completely blanking on his name, but it's fine. Um, but
Dodonna.
Yeah, Dodonna. Yeah, but I also want to say with the ground battle on Endor, it's so improvisational too.
Yes.
Where like I mean, it's Han Solo at his most Han Solo.
I can
It's
hotwire it.
yeah, yeah. And then like we were sitting there in the theater and my wife's like, "Why the hell didn't you do that in the first place? Like after like before R2 even came over. Like why did you try to hotwire it in the first place?"
Yeah, because he's Han Solo. He doesn't want to get his
Yeah,
hands dirty,
exactly. But then the reverse on the "I love you, I know" with Leia and Han is so great too.
Yeah.
And and then Chewie in the Ewoks commandeering the Scout Walker is great. And then you've got the one Ewok that's playing with Chewie's hair like the whole time, like as he's driving the Scout Walker.
Yeah.
It's great. Um, but I love that battle so much because it also shows you that even the little guy can make a difference in this big conflict.
Freedom is a pure idea. To
It is.
quote Nemec's manifesto,
Yeah.
it's like it doesn't take lofty ideals
Mhm.
and intricate training to
Yeah.
bring the fight to the Empire. All it takes is moxie and having nothing left to lose.
And they fight like that.
They do.
Yeah. Uh,
Yeah.
so I want to move on to the space battle, and then we'll talk about the big battle, between Luke and Vader and the
The
Emperor.
battle between good and evil. Yeah.
Yeah. This has to be my favorite space battle. It's
Oh,
so done well. I mean, it's done so
it's
well.
it starts with the it's a trap moment,
It does, which is brilliant.
and it ends with, and again, I would be a fake friend to one of my friends, in this case Kells, if I didn't mention, and it ends with Wedge destroying the second Death Star.
Uh, he rightfully does so.
um we love Wedge Antilles.
Oh,
Everyone's
I
got to
love
love
Wedge.
Wedge.
Yeah.
Especially Nora, but everyone's got to love Wedge.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. It's a great space battle. It
Hmm.
has one of my favorite, like, understated moments, which is A-wing pilot gets shot down, crashes into the bridge of the Superstar Destroyer. Superstar Destroyer crashes into the Death Star.
Hmm.
Everyone on the bridge of the home one cheers, except for Akbar, who kind of gets this solemn look and sits and slumps back into his chair. Because like one of his pilots just died.
Yeah.
One of the people who, I mean, like, yeah, that pilot probably knew that he's given his life for the rebellion, but it's still, I don't know. I really like that little characterization of
Hmm.
Akbar caring more about the pilots than about the victory.
I also like to think that, because since you bring that up, I'd like to think that he's also just thinking about the unneeded and not unnecessary deaths that happened on that Superstar Destroyer
Yeah.
too.
Lost Stars,
Yeah.
we see how many people are in all of these ships. After Lost Stars, I love just pointing out random TIE fighters and random X-Wings and be like, it's Sienna and Thane. But and you can actually do that in this movie because it
Yeah.
actually probably is them.
Yeah.
And it's like I mean, you're right. Like that kind of is him like recognizing the catastrophic death toll that is basically a city crashing into a country.
Yeah.
Because there's, I mean, maybe not a big, like a small city crashing into a metropolitan area.
Yeah.
Because there's millions of people running at least the first Death Star. I think the second Death Star has a little bit smaller crew just because it's still under construction. But
Yeah.
I'm not 100% sure.
They don't
but
really
like,
give you an accurate number.
there's like a couple million people.
Yeah.
It's the size of a moon. It's it's jam packed.
It has its own gravitational pull.
I don't know what everyone's doing in there. It seems like a lot of people for what is essentially a big gun, but someone's running the racquetball court. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
Pickleball.
and it's like, yeah, it's a catastrophic death toll over Endor. It would have been way more devastating for the Death Star to have blasted, another major planet.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So, also with this, because you said that you like to point out like various characters like in random fighters and stuff.
Yes, lots of good glups in this
Yeah.
movie.
I like to think that there are two A-wings in that battle that we see, and one of them is piloted by Hera, and the other one is piloted by Poe Dameron's mom.
And don't forget, one of them's piloted by Will Lark, so you got 3 there.
Okay, yeah. So you got 3 there because Will Lark is there. He was actually at Endor.
He was there.
He did,
yeah.
yeah.
He's the only one who was at Endor of the of Alphabet.
That's right, because Yurika
was still with the Empire.
Yeah.
Nath was off doing his thing. And Kairos or I guess the pilot formerly known as Kairos and Chas were doing their thing elsewhere.
Yeah. And then you had Aiden, who was probably like back on a base or something.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, because we know in Shattered Empire that Poe's mom did fly in the Battle of Endor.
Yes.
And then we do know that Will Lark was there from Alphabet Squadron. And then, yeah, I like to think that Hera Syndulla wasn't flying the Ghost, but she was flying one of those 8 wings.
The fact that Hera flies an A-wing makes me so happy. I'm the A-wing lover. Probably not the A-wing lover. There are other people who love A-wings more, but I love A-wings a lot.
Well, if Ellie's the X-wing lover, you're the A-wing lover.
Yeah. There's only one ship that I like even close to the A-wing, which we'll get to when we talk about Survivor.
Well, yeah. Yes, because we have one more topic.
Yeah. But yeah, it's that whole space battle is just phenomenal.
It's
the angles are beautiful. The little moments of like Lando in the cockpit being worried that he scratched the ship.
He's so great.
The fact that like there's kind of the multiple layers in how Lando is playing it of like, Well, he doesn't want to hurt his friend's ship, but he also doesn't want to hurt his ship.
Exactly. And I was thinking about that too, because I was like, the ship's
So
back to the rightful owner.
he accepts that Han has the Falcon now,
Yeah.
but it's still his baby.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the main point of conflict here, which is
The
Luke,
battle of good
Vader,
and
and the
evil,
Emperor.
light versus
Yeah,
dark.
and how Palpatine really tempts Luke in that sequence, and um you can tell Luke is struggling a bit, and you can
Yeah.
tell he he you can kind of see the gears turning in his head, where I think he's thinking, well, in order to save my dad, I might have to go to the dark side to do it.
Right. And you see Luke go through this whole crazy journey just within the Emperor's throne room, because he comes in fully expecting that he might just have to distract these two Sith Lords until the building he's in explodes.
Yes.
That's his expectation when he comes in. Like, he wants to save Vader,
Yeah.
but he says outright, like, no, I'm just gonna die with the both of you.
Hmm.
And he seems to accept it. But the second that, and this goes to one of like the classic Jedi things, the second that the people he cares about, the people he feels this attachment to, are the ones being threatened, that's when he starts to, you see his resolve chipping.
Yeah.
You know, the big one is, of course, when Vader says, oh, well, if you won't go to the dark side, maybe your sister will. And Luke loses it.
Yeah.
But you see it when the Emperor is like, your friends will die. You see it when even when you get to the end, when the Emperor is saying, like, you know, is saying to kill him, it's still playing on that same attachment, but it's the Emperor thinks that he feels this attachment in one way, but really Luke feels it in a different way.
Yeah.
And I think what it comes down to is, and I think this is what Luke means when he says his I'm a Jedi like my father before me, and he casts his lightsaber aside, is he kind of decides he's going to stop fighting what he hates, and he's going to start protecting what he loves instead.
And I think, like, he comes to this moment where, and it feels like now knowing, like, he met Elzar Mann,
right,
and everything, I'm putting together, as I'm watching this, I'm putting together like everything that we've experienced in comics and books and all of it, and like it all goes back to the High Republic here, where a lot of the Jedi just, they were taught not to fight unless they had to, and then Luke finally accepts that, which is the Jedi way. You don't fight unless you have to.
Yeah, because he realizes, like, if I fight now, I'm like, he wouldn't win in a fight against the Emperor.
Oh no.
And like, it would be a pointless fight, and all that it would do would be him giving in to his urges of aggression and fear and anger. And he realizes that, and he realizes, I am being played. I am having my emotions toyed with.
Yeah.
And I can't let my emotions rule me.
Yeah. And that leads me to Vader. And there's one scene, of course it's the Vader redemption scene, where actually now that they added the no, it actually hits harder, in my opinion, with them adding the no dialogue from Vader. But I was thinking, like, as I was sitting there and I was watching it, and you see Vader looking at Luke being electrocuted, being tortured by that Force lightning. To me, I'm thinking, oh, Anakin Skywalker's thinking about how he could have saved Mace Windu. And this is his chance to redeem himself from not saving Mace Windu. But of course, he wants to save his son because that's his
Right.
son. But I keep thinking like he's thinking back to that night on Coruscant.
And he's also got to be thinking back to, because he definitely knew that the Emperor wanted Luke to be his replacement.
Oh yeah, totally.
And he's got to just be thinking like, wow, this Emperor guy just keeps chewing people up and spitting them out when they aren't exactly what he wants.
Yeah.
I've already been chewed up. I've seen Dooku and Maul get it. Yeah. He knows about he knows about Ventress.
Yeah.
Just getting chewed up and spit out. And he kind of has that final like, this can't continue.
Yeah.
As long as this guy is in charge of the galaxy is going to keep getting worse. People are going to keep getting chewed up and spit out.
Yeah.
It's a shame it took him 25 years to figure that out, but better late than never. And yeah, and I think it's especially, I think there is something to be said for the fact that he doesn't like stab the Emperor.
No.
He doesn't rip the Emperor in half with his super strength. He kind of lets the Emperor be the instrument of his own destruction. He lets the Emperor's pet project, the Death Star, be his end. Because the Emperor never gets defeated by like traditional methods. Anyone who tries to traditionally fight him loses.
Yeah.
You have to use his own hubris against him.
Yeah.
Like if he had a little better concentration and hadn't been so given over to his ecstasy of electrocuting Luke Skywalker, he probably would have been able to catch himself, He would have, but he was so given into the dark side that he couldn't even save himself.
Yeah, it's
ironic.
He couldn't see the Vader thing coming.
Yeah.
The smartest guy in the room couldn't see his own downfall.
Yeah. Because he thinks he's too smart for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's just that whole everything in the Emperor's throne room. And with all of the extra media that we've had added into it.
Yeah.
Just phenomenal.
Yeah. And this whole time period is so fascinating to me. Like the time period right around Return of the Jedi is just so fascinating.
I'm excited as we get closer to Return of the Jedi in the comics.
Yeah. And I'm wondering
Luke is starting to build his green lightsaber, and I'm like, okay, we're getting there. We're getting there.
And that makes, I'm wondering if they're going to continue it after Jedi.
I am curious where they're going to go after they hit Return of the Jedi in the comics. Mostly because they suddenly won't be able to have the Darth Vader comic anymore.
Yeah.
Sorry, Sabe, you'll have to exist in a different place. But yeah. I mean, I'm curious to see where it goes.
Yeah. And then that leads us to the end of the movie where we get the band back together one final time.
We get the band back together one final time. We get Star Wars: The Hug Republic. We get Wedge and Luke. It looks like they're about to go in for a kiss, and then it's just a hug. We get CGI'd in Hayden Christensen. I'm fine with it because
me too.
because like you recognize who it is then,
Mm-hmm.
rather than just being like, and a white guy.
But I like that it's Hayden Christensen as Anakin because you see what could have been.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that whole I mean the celebration scene, it's classic. It's they changed the music so it's no longer Yub Nub, but
Yeah.
Yub Nub.
It's a great song.
My dad's school choir did that song in 1983
Of
at
Celebrate
a
the Light.
school concert. Yeah.
Nice.
I just have to pull out that story every time.
It's great.
Yeah.
So the one thing that I like about that final sequence is like we do see how the Empire's defeat affects the entire galaxy. And then I'm not a big fan of the Aftermath trilogy that much because I just don't like the way it's written, honestly, with like the narration. But knowing about the story of the statue being toppled in Coruscant or on Coruscant is just so cool.
All of the post Return of the Jedi, like they kind of a lot of it under that Road to the Force Awakens label. Lost Stars, Battlefront 2, Alphabet, Aftermath. All of it works so well to paint this intricate picture of like, end of Return of the Jedi, it kind of shows you this like slideshow of the galaxy overthrowing the Empire. But like it's another solid year until the Empire is like defeated, and then we see in The Mandalorian that there's like, okay, well, it's defeated, but it's also existed for over 20 years, so there's gonna be people who are fanatical about it and are gonna hold on.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I do love how good of an ending Return of the Jedi gives us. I also love how it gives us this really good, really succinct ending. Like the Empire is going to be defeated after the Battle of Endor.
Yeah.
But it still gives you all of that room to play with, like, okay, the Empire is going to be defeated. The Empire is now losing.
Yeah.
But like the rebellion's been losing for the past 20 years. So
yeah. I also want to talk about something, one silly thought that I had in my head real quick at the end of the movie, and that's the kiss between Han and Leia after the destruction of the Death Star, and then Wicket barges in on the kiss and everything. I almost had I had this thought, and I almost yelled this in the middle of the theater. These guys are gonna crash your bachelor party in a couple of days.
I love that they did that. I love that Beth gave us that. It's the most accurate characterization of how the Ewoks are.
Yes.
They don't care what your celebration is.
Yes.
They want to party, and they're gonna party, and they're gonna make the party amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just kept thinking to myself, and I'm like, in a couple of days, you guys are getting married. You guys are getting married in like 3 days after this.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Yeah. Han and Leia are phenomenal in Return of the Jedi. I don't
they really
like
are.
it's obviously yes, we get a lot of Han and Leia in Empire, but it's also still kind of got that creepy overtone.
Yeah.
And then a lot of that's gone in Return of the Jedi. They seem a lot more comfortable with each other.
Mm-hmm.
They are a lot more genuine about how they're feeling and not
Yeah.
like couching it behind different things. And I really appreciate, and like you've got Han being goofy,
Yeah.
which is Han at his best.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just think that they're great in this movie.
And it's also their movie. Essentially, it's
Yes,
their movie.
absolutely.
I mean, yeah,
Like,
Luke is the main character, but it's their movie.
yeah, like Leia and Han both shine in, I mean, both Empire and Return of the Jedi, but
Yeah.
I just think the two of them are excellent in Return of the Jedi.
Yeah. 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 Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, so happy 40th anniversary to Return of the Jedi. I will also say this movie still looks gorgeous after 40 years. It holds up really well, minus the speeder bike chase scene because
And even that is still like, it's still fun.
oh
It's
yeah.
still a good action scene.
Oh yeah.
You can tell that it was filmed in not old growth forest because all the trees are in perfect rows. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Yeah. So let's move on here. We've got Jedi Survivor. We're going to share some spoiler-free thoughts on the
Yes.
game. So you, I guess, are roughly 6 or 8 hours in, probably.
Oh, I'm not 100% sure. I am. Here, let me quick check.
Oh, you're playing it on
No,
PC?
I am. Yes, I'm playing it on PC. Somehow my computer can run it.
Oh,
The one upside to my computer going kaput last year is I had to get a new one, and it has the recommended stats for
nice.
Survivor, so it works. And I haven't had any troubles with lag or anything, which
Yeah.
I'm very grateful for. I am a good bit into it, actually.
Okay.
I'm 16 hours in.
Wow.
I didn't get enough sleep last night. But yeah, I haven't been able to kind of play it all day. Like I have a job.
Yeah, same here.
I got home from work and immediately started playing it, but
Mhm.
I still have a job. But I'm loving it. I was a huge fan of Fallen Order.
Yeah.
Fallen Order is part of what got me into like Star Wars fandom
Mhm.
big time.
Mhm.
Actually, definitely Fallen Order is what got me to a new level of fandom.
Mhm.
Fallen Order was the first thing that was like, I have to write fan fiction now. And I'm so grateful for that because if I hadn't started getting more involved in the fandom with that, I wouldn't have picked up High Republic.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have read Midnight Horizon and gone completely bonkers, and now have met all the High Republic authors and had this Star Wars Twitter account slide into my DMs and get kidnapped by Matt Martin. And it's just it's such a good game. It's such a good story. It's so quintessentially Star Wars.
It is.
And Survivor absolutely matches that energy.
Yeah. I will say this, like, I feel like this franchise in Star Wars feels a lot like Uncharted, where like like Uncharted and Tomb Raider, where it's taking itself seriously, but it doesn't take itself too seriously
It's
at the
taking
same
itself
time.
seriously. It's still making jokes.
It's so much fun.
It's the Star Wars vibe. It's like it
Yeah.
is internally treating itself fully seriously.
Yeah.
And then you have a silly looking alien making silly sounds.
Turgle.
I was talking about Guido actually, but
Oh yeah, Guido.
yeah. Yeah.
but like this game, like I love Fallen Order. I've played through it 6 times.
Likewise, yeah.
It's such an amazing game. And just the story that it tells, and the stakes are big, but they're personal at the same time, and we
The
get that.
stakes are big, but the story is so personal.
Yeah.
Fallen Order, this is a dangerous game that I play.
Mhm.
I like to compare it to Knights of the Old Republic because it's got kind of that same structure of like
It does.
you're putting together a crew, you're on a
Mhm.
ship, you're hopping from planet to planet,
Yeah.
looking at ruins to try to figure out how to defeat this big evil empire.
Yeah.
But it's on so much more of a personal level.
Mhm.
Like, and it's so much more. As much as I like a role playing game where you get to kind of create your character, like in KOTOR,
Mhm.
I love how they have laser focused in on Cal Kestis and
Yes.
his little family that he's made.
Mhm.
And how, I mean, Cal is a very, like, at least at the start, is like very much like, okay, this would be like the archetypal Jedi Padawan survived Order 66.
Yeah.
Like, he's heavily traumatized from Order 66.
Mhm.
He doesn't know what he's doing. He's just trying to get by.
Mhm.
Um, but they still managed to make him like a fan favorite character. Like, he is
Yeah.
a lot of people's favorite Jedi for a good reason.
He's one of mine.
He's like he's very much not your standard Jedi. He's
No.
very different from your standard Jedi. Um,
He
he is
reminds me of Qui-Gon.
absolutely he does. Yeah.
Like with yeah.
If he were in the High Republic, he'd be a way seeker. That's what I'm saying.
He would. Yeah.
And but like he still very clearly like holds dear
Mhm.
the order and what it represented.
Mhm.
And that's because like every other Jedi that we see in the post Order 66 era, Obi-Wan, Kanan, Ezra, Luke, Yoda, or in this reign of the Empire era,
Yeah.
is they're either completely new to this and don't know what came before, so Ezra or Luke, or they have intentionally cut themselves off from the before.
Mhm.
Kanan, Obi-Wan, and Yoda, they have
Yeah.
intentionally like severed those ties. Like, I need to like start fresh.
Mhm.
And Cal doesn't.
Yeah.
Cal is holding on to that
Mhm.
past. And I just think he's such an interesting character.
Well, I want to say this, and then we'll get into some thoughts on Survivor here with Cal Kestis. One of the most endearing things about his character is he's a Jedi with attachments, and he finds a way to balance those attachments with his duty at the same
Yes.
time.
He is able to, as Cantum Sai would put it, love and let go.
Yeah.
Because he absolutely is, this is going to be just me talking about Fallen Order. To be clear, I'm not going to be spoiling anything from Survivor here. He watches Seer, quote unquote, die at the hands of Vader. He, can I talk battle scars spoilers?
Yeah, you can. That's
this
fine.
Is a good. He sees Grease have his arm chopped off. He watches Marin go through everything that she goes through.
Mhm.
And like he feels this immense pain for them.
Yeah.
But he keeps going. He doesn't let his attachments hold him back. He lets them pull him forward.
Yeah.
And that is like that's what Luke does in Return of the Jedi.
Mhm.
That's the whole we're not going to fight what we hate. We're going to save what we love.
Yeah.
I mean, like, thank you, Rose Tico, for perfectly summarizing the Star Wars like thesis statement, because that's absolutely what he does. He uses his attachments. He doesn't let them hold him back. He lets them pull him forward.
Yeah.
He doesn't let them pull him away from a fight or away from what needs to be done. He lets them show him what needs to be done.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's just fantastic.
Yeah. So with Survivor here, I'm loving this game so far. It's fantastic. Really, this isn't too much of a spoiler, but a lot of High Republic deep dives in this game.
A lot of it.
That's all I'm gonna say, because you need to experience it for yourself. Yeah, but it's pretty epic, and like my High Republic heart just started fluttering.
It's a good time to be a High Republic fan.
Yeah. It's also a great time to be a Z95 Headhunter fan.
Yeah. That's my second favorite ship after A-Wings.
Which I gotta tell you, the
third
whole
favorite is Vectors. So
oh, I love Vectors too. The whole Coruscant sequence at the beginning of the game is so much fun.
Yes.
And I'm not going to go into detail of what happens there, but it's a lot of fun, and Cal Kestis wrecks some stuff on Coruscant. That's what I'm going to say.
That's one thing I don't think it's really a spoiler to say. They handled the fact that this is a character who has previously been powered up by the end of a video game really, really well. Because they don't depower him like at all. You still feel like it's the end of Fallen Order when you're starting Survivor. Obviously, they changed the mechanics a little bit. They make the fighting a little more fluid. They integrate the Force a little bit better into the combat mechanics. All of which fantastic.
Yeah.
Very good changes to the combat mechanics.
It feels very fluid.
Very fluid.
Yeah.
The Force doesn't feel tacked on. The Force feels built in.
Yeah. It does.
And that makes sense, given like in the first game he's literally just reconnecting with the Force, whereas in this game it's been 5 years. He's had a little time to integrate these things, and it manages to have you feeling like, oh, I can still mow down stormtroopers like no one's business, while still giving you more room to grow and new ways to grow. And I'm really loving that. They handle that really, really well.
I will say this, the meditation points actually feel a lot better too.
Yes.
Like when it comes to
they are placed really well.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
No, they are. They are. And the ability to fast travel between meditation points is really nice too.
Yeah. I don't personally use fast travel really in any game, but I do like the option.
Yeah.
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 I like walking places. Is it obvious that Morrowind was my first Elder Scrolls game? Maybe.
It was a lot of our first Elder Scrolls games.
Yeah. So I am loving it so far. It's really, really fun. Lightsaber go burr. High Republic. That's really my whole review right there.
I will say this: there is a sequence where you get to see something happen that's really, really cool that they've talked about in canon, but I'm not going to go into it because it's really cool. I think you know what I mean. It's after the back to tank. That's all I'm gonna say.
Right.
Because you actually see something happen to an object, and I'm like, that is so freaking cool.
It is.
You know what I'm talking about.
When I gasped. I'm very glad that was a cutscene because I would have dropped the controller.
Yes.
And that's all I'm going to say, because it was that whole sequence was handled so well. And like, I guess I should have expected it, but I didn't.
No, because I wasn't thinking of that character in that way.
And I'm glad that we got it.
Yeah.
Because it feels, I can't say enough of
No,
what I want to say without going into spoilers.
yeah,
Basically, really, really good game.
yes,
Thus far, everything in it has been executed really well.
yes.
I feel like they took everything from the first game that worked and they kept it,
Mhm,
and then the
mhm,
things that people did have issues with, the maps being like hard to navigate or you have to go a very linear route through a map,
mhm.
they have fixed a lot of that.
The maps are definitely bigger, and there's more room to explore than in
There's
the
a
first
lot
game.
more interconnectedness between
Yeah,
parts of the maps also,
yeah,
and I really, really, really appreciate
yeah.
that.
Um,
Um,
and
like
you guys are gonna love
as
Kobo.
I am, I think the Planet Zepho appreciator
Oh no,
in
I
the
love Zepho.
entire. But like, you see so many people complaining about the Zepho map,
Hmm.
and everything that people complain about with the Zepho map has largely been fixed.
Yeah,
I think
it has.
everything that I loved about the Zepho map has been kept.
Hmm. I will say this: I am at I guess you could say it's the third location
Yes,
after.
it's the
Yeah,
third location.
yeah, because Kobo's the second, Coruscant's the first.
Right.
I'm at the third location, and being able to go to that location, I lost it too because
I
I got so excited.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm,
Um,
lips are sealed, but
I
oh my gosh.
I will also say this: you can pet boglings.
You can pet the bogling.
Yes, which I spent quite a bit of time doing,
I pet
and
every bogling I see.
and I'm playing it on Xbox on my Series S, and like the first time you pet the bogling, it actually unlocks an achievement.
Yes, it does that on
It
PC as
does,
well.
yeah, because like the achievement pops up and it says, "Can you pet the bogling?" And it's like achievement unlocked. You pet the bogling, and it's like I'm like, that's the only achievement I needed for this game.
The only achievement I needed.
I'm good. Like I can stop playing this game now that I've pet the bogling, but I can't. And I gotta tell you, Grease is so funny in this game. He's so great, and I love the new edition with Bode too. I think he's great. Um, yeah, that's all I can say.
Greasy
Play this
money.
game.
Greasy
Yeah,
money.
greasy money. Um,
Greasy money.
and the bartender at the canteen is great too.
The bartender is right up there with Creighton.
He really is. The what's his name?
Um,
Monk.
Monk, yeah.
Yeah,
Right up there with Creighton.
yeah.
Oh my god.
He's so much fun to watch. He's so great. And he's so wisecracky too. I love it. Um there's okay, can I say my favorite piece of dialogue because it's not really a spoiler. It's after you get done doing the stuff and you get back to the cantina. Um there's the scene where Bode's like, I'm looking for Cal Kestis. And then Grease is like, Kestis Cal Whatis? So, like, I don't know that. I don't know that guy. And then like you walk in and he's like, oh, hey Cal Kestis, what's going on? And you're like, you just said you didn't know me.
Yes, that is a very Grease moment.
It is so
I,
funny.
I going from Fallen Order to Battle Scars to Survivor,
Hmm.
the characters especially of Cal and Grease, they feel so well
Hmm.
preserved. Like it's really, really well done. The continuity of character.
Yeah, and it feels like they poured the most love into those two characters too. Well, of course, they poured a lot of love into Cal Kestis because he's your main character, but they pour a lot
Grease,
of love into Grease.
there is so much heart and soul in Grease.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
I love him.
yeah. So that's actually going to transition us into the High Republic here. I finally read Cataclysm, finally finished it. I'm going to start Quest for Planet X either later tonight or tomorrow.
Quest for Planet X is an amazing book.
I hear it's fun. I hear it's a lot of fun. I loved Quest for the Hidden City too. I thought that was a fun book.
Rupert and Salandra are probably my favorite Master and Padawan duo in Phase 2. Or they're definitely my favorite Padawan Master duo in Phase 2. They're up there with Cantum and Lula.
I was thinking, okay, so I'm glad Salandra is in Quest for Planet X because I was thinking she wasn't making out of Battle of Jeddah. I kept thinking she wasn't going to make it out of that story.
Same.
I'm going to say this. I love her character. It's great to see a Jedi with a shield. And she uses it to kick a lot of ass.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about Cataclysm here. This book, Lydia Kang brought the heat with this book.
Dr. Kang wrote one hell of a book.
She really did.
I really, really enjoyed Convergence.
It was a good book.
But Cataclysm took the characters and took the plot beats and took the story and ran.
Yeah.
It made me change my mind on a couple of characters. I don't know how much we want to go into spoilers. It made me change my mind on a couple of characters. It has the character relationships were all done so well. Bringing over Creighton and Ada's relationship from Battle of Jeddah.
Creighton,
Axel and Gela and Ziri and Fontu and Kyong.
All the spoilers. My brother-in-law just said all the spoilers.
I don't really think it's a huge spoiler to say that Kyong and Axel's relationship plays a big part in this book.
And I gotta tell you, like, when they finally get together in the book, it actually feels natural.
It feels natural. It feels like it not only does it feel like natural, like, oh, this is the natural progression of the story. It feels natural, like, oh, this is a mother and son interacting.
Exactly.
Because so often familiar relations can be hard to write. Because it's hard to get that exact level of like familiarity to the point of you are just not actually transmitting much real information. You're just kind of sniping at each other.
Yeah.
Like even like emotion neutral sniping, like you're just saying words to each other.
Yeah.
And it does not make a ton of sense if you don't have all the context of this relationship.
Yeah.
And she did such a good job of building this relationship.
She really did, and it's actually the backbone for the second half of the book.
Absolutely.
And I will say Crichton and Ada's relationship is the backbone for the second half of the book as well.
Yeah.
Especially towards the end of the book. I mean, I don't want to spoil the ending just yet. I feel I feel like, you know, after a month we could do it. You know what I mean?
But suffice to say, it is the last adult novel in a phase of the High Republic. Do with that information what you will.
It's gonna hurt, and it does hurt.
Oh, God.
There are 3 deaths in that book that just made me hurt so much.
I posed for a picture with Dr. Kang literally maybe 2 hours after finishing the book. And if you look at me in the picture, I'm like, I feel like holding back the tears, Harold. I'm like,
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
holding
Like
it
everything's
in.
fine.
Everything's fine. I'm fine. I read this book in 2 days. She was surprised that anyone had already finished the book. And we're like,
Yeah.
you should have known what you were getting into with the High Republic fans. We're all insane. This was some of us bumped into her at Forbidden Planet. At like the store, not so this is before Celebration even started.
I did see those photos.
We bumped into her and Adam Christopher, but none of us recognized Adam Christopher in the moment because his hair is so much longer now.
Yeah.
So we all were like, oh my gosh, Dr. Lydia Kang, we loved Cataclysm, or we're reading Cataclysm. Oh my God, can we get a picture? And Adam Christopher is just standing there. I loved Shadow of the Sith. Adam Christopher is a fantastic author. I'm really sorry. But it did make, I bumped into him probably every day of Celebration.
Nice.
And we definitely recognized each other every time after that. And it felt really awkward. But yeah. Yeah. It's just, Cataclysm was so good.
It's a great book. It's so much it's a lot of fun to read. It has a few moments of levity which you really need. I will say this, the first death that shocked me, you know which one I'm talking about.
I do.
Because I didn't want that character to die because of all of the levity that they were bringing.
Right.
So I did message Dr. Lydia Kang on Twitter saying, how could you do that? And she just gives me this face like, and I'm like, is there more pain coming? And she's like, just keep reading.
Just keep reading. Yeah, that first death hits you like a ton of bricks, and then the years start coming, and they don't stop coming, and they don't stop coming, and they don't stop coming.
Exactly. My wife was just saying, like, they probably just decide which characters to kill just by like rolling the dice and seeing the numbers.
I will actually say, I feel like every death in this book was given the appropriate weight and consequence. Like, I don't feel like there's maybe one character death where it's like, oh, that seems kind of out of the blue, but everything else felt really like, oh, this makes sense that this is happening.
Yeah.
And I feel like the consequences are playing out like we're seeing other characters' reactions. We're seeing, like, that's what my favorite part of season 4 of Rebels is everyone mourning.
Yeah.
I think that giving space for, like, after a character death, like, everyone coming to terms with it, the other characters coming to terms with it, is really important for hammering home what a death means.
Yes.
And I think that this book did a pretty good job with that.
So I do have one criticism of the book, just one, and I just feel like we didn't get enough of the leveler in this book. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because they kept teasing it.
Right. How can I say this? I'm gonna pull the Kevin Scott line. There is a reason why the YA book is the last of the novels coming out this phase. That is what I am saying.
No, and that's perfectly valid. That is perfectly valid.
They talked a lot about the Night of Sorrows at Celebration.
Yes, and that is what part of Cataclysm has is the Night of Sorrows. Yeah.
Night of Sorrows is, it's not really a spoiler to say this, the central event of Wave 2 of Phase 2.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like the fall of Starlight. It is.
Yeah.
The main event. And that's all I'll say.
Yeah.
I
That
really,
makes sense.
really, really liked Path of Vengeance. These are my tabs for my first reading. These are my additional tabs for my second reading.
Jeez. But
Color
that
coded as well.
but that was just like the one my only small
and
issue
that's
with it.
a super justified.
Yeah.
I was kind of okay with it because that wasn't a major part of Convergence.
Yes, I was happy with that actually. I was very
So
happy with
I'm glad that it was like, I don't know, it felt like they kept the core what this story is about.
Yeah.
While still having these other events taking place.
Yeah.
Um
go on because I'm trying to formulate thoughts here
yeah,
without
I
spoiling.
they it and it's phase 2 in general is very, very, very characters focused. It's
It
very
is.
much focused on the internal conflicts of the individual. Not that phase 1 didn't have internal conflicts for all the characters, but phase 2, the plot is driven by these internal conflicts rather than the internal conflicts being worked through with the plot.
Yes.
In this case, the plot is the internal conflicts. Like, Gella's plot in Convergence is entirely driven by the fact that she is reeling from losing her path, from everything that happened with her Pathfinder team.
Yeah.
And like that is what drives her into the plot.
Yes.
I feel like they did a good job of continuing that character focus, even though, yeah, it was at the sacrifice of some of these connective tissue things.
Yeah. And it's interesting to see like each main character pretty much has their own book.
Yes.
In this phase, because like with Path of Deceit, it's Yana, Marta, and Kevmo. It's their book.
Right.
With some of the mother, I would say.
Right.
With some of the mother.
The mother in Path of Deceit kind of feels like she is a force of nature.
Yes.
Rather than a character, which I like. I do like force of nature characters. Like that's how I view Thrawn, for example.
No,
like, he's
Thrawn
less of a character and more of a event that everyone else has to deal with.
Yes, I would agree.
Yeah.
And then I would say Quest for the Hidden City, it's Rupert and Solandra's book.
Yes.
Mostly Rupert's book.
And not really a spoiler to say that Planet X is also very much Rupert.
And I get that.
I love Rupert. She is fantastic. She is my favorite Jedi of phase 2. I just think she's great.
She is. She's a great character.
As much as I like it, she's the anti-Reese Silas, is really what she is.
She is. Just 150 years in the past.
She's the anti-Reese Silas.
Yeah, she is.
Like, for everything, Reese is like, I just want my books and I don't want adventure. Rupert's like, I just want adventure and I don't want to think.
And Crichton and Solandra talk about that in Battle of Jeddah, and I love that they talk about that.
I love that. There is one of my favorite tropes in Star Wars is when Master and Padawan are complete opposites.
Yes, like Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan.
Like Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan, like Obi-Wan and Anakin.
Yeah.
They're not complete opposites, but they're very opposed. They're very different from each other.
They're two sides of the same coin.
They're two sides of the same coin, but they are still two different sides. Same with, I would say, Rupert and Solandra. They are two sides of the same coin. Where like they both care deeply about like saving people and stuff.
Yeah.
But Salandra is like, you have to care about protecting them. And Rupert's like, but I just want to kill the monster that is going to kill them.
Yeah, exactly. Like, can we talk about this after I do this?
Can we talk about this? There is a monster, and we need to handle that.
Yes.
I'm loving the lecture. It's great. And it's they have an extremely healthy relationship, and I love them,
Yeah.
and they care deeply about each other,
Mm-hmm.
which that's always the thing that like you've got to if you can't sell me on a master and a Padawan
Yeah.
if they don't care deeply about each other.
And that's why I love Enya and Charleroi,
Yeah,
because they're a
they
great master and
really
Padawan
care
duo.
about each other.
Yeah.
Enya Charleroi, Comac and Reef, they really
Yeah.
care about each other. Cantum
I
and Lula, they
I would
really care about each other.
I
They're like
would
parent and child.
I would say even Vern and Emery. I would even say
Yeah,
the stuff that we've gotten with Stellan and Vern, like you could tell they cared. But the big one was Loden and Bell.
yes.
Yeah.
You've got to sell me on that they really deeply care about each other.
Yeah.
And normally they do, but
Mhm.
you still got to do it.
So, we're talking about like various characters like having their own books. Of course,
Right,
Convergence is Gella's book.
right.
And then you get Battle of Jeddah, which is Crichton and Ada's book,
And Salandras, I would say.
and Salandra's. Yeah, definitely. With some of and Keth. I would say Keth is a huge part of
Yes.
Battle of Jeddah.
Keth Sarapath.
I loved him. I even loved Morton Santeca in that book.
I am a sucker for a good Santeca.
Yeah. And then, like I said, and then with Cataclysm, it's very much it's another Crichton heavy book, which is fine. I mean, I'm all
I feel like
about
the first half of the book is very Gela focused.
it is, especially
And
with
I
the
love
Axel
Gela,
stuff.
so I'm glad that we got that.
Yeah. Especially with the Axel stuff. It feels like Ziri and Fontu kind of take a back seat in
And that's okay
Cataclysm.
because
Yeah.
Convergence was very much their story.
It was. It was very much their story.
Gela was kind of there to facilitate Gela and Axel were kind of there to facilitate Ziri and Fontu's story.
Yeah.
And now it feels like the tables have turned, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Because if you have like a cast of 4 main characters, I think having 2 of them take focus and 2 of them support is a very reasonable way to structure 2 stories.
Yeah, and the Ziri and Fontu stuff in Cataclysm is still very enjoyable.
I love them.
Yeah.
Maybe, yeah, I love them.
I would even say I love the relationship between Malo and Greylark in this in
Yeah.
Cataclysm too.
Chancellor Malo and
He
Chancellor
grew on me.
Greylark.
Malo grew on me.
Malo I was sold on from the get-go. Greylark grew on me with Cataclysm.
Yeah. She's so good in that book.
She's written with so much care given to her characterization.
Yeah.
And simultaneously she's able to feel like a whole new character while still being entirely accurate to the character that we were shown in Convergence.
Yeah.
And I love that.
I will also say this. Cataclysm also has my least favorite character with Banat. Yeah.
I don't want
Just
to say he's my
read
least
that.
favorite. I do love to hate him.
Yeah. And I will say, if you're a Yaddle fan, Cataclysm's the book for you. Because Yaddle's great in that.
Yaddle,
especially that story that she her subplot is so great. Her subplot's so funny.
And every Yaddle scene, I'm like, is every member of this species an agent of chaos?
Yes.
And the answer is yes.
Yes.
Every Yaddle scene, like, Yaddle is very much one of the sources of levity in the book.
Yes, absolutely.
And we love her for it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I will also say this. The High Republic is all Sunshine Dobbs's fault.
Absolutely.
It all goes back to
Screw
Sunshine
that
Dobbs.
man.
Yeah, I hate that man.
Not really a spoiler to say that he's in Path of Vengeance.
I figured he was. I
Sunshine.
figured it was.
Sunshine.
And I hope he gets what he
If
deserves.
you're a fan of Sunshine Dobbs, why? But second,
There's a Sunshine Dobbs fan account following me on Twitter.
I'm aware. It certainly exists.
When I
You know
tweeted,
what?
it's
If
all
you're a
his
fan
fault.
of Sunshine Dobbs,
This is the
consider
book for
Path of Vengeance.
you. Like when I tweeted out that it's all Sunshine Dobbs's fault, like I just get this tweet back and it's just the giant eyes, and I'm just like, yes.
Yeah, and
Are you going to admit that it's your fault? Because this is your fault. I will say this as well. I do enjoy Cataclysm does start to set up the Nihil in a
yes.
big way. Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, it's so good. I have loved seeing where these through lines are starting
Mm-hmm.
between phase 2 and phase 1/3.
Yeah.
I am so excited to see the payoff for things in phase 3.
Mm-hmm.
I hope we get to see Irem and or Arano again in phase 3 because I love those planets.
Irem, hopefully without chunks of Starlight Beacon.
I think Arano would be an interesting place for a phase 3 book to be set.
I'd like to see it.
I want to see how much Arano's progressed in 150 years.
Yes.
Even though another 100 of those were war.
Yeah.
Thanks, Comac. But
exactly.
I mean, I want to see an Arano at peace. I enjoy going back and thinking about Irem at peace.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I know that you read Path of Vengeance, like you said,
right.
and it's your
trying not to spoil anything.
No,
for
no,
it.
I get it. And you said it was your favorite phase 2 novel.
Yeah.
I will say this: as much as I loved Cataclysm, Battle of Jeddah is still my favorite so far.
That is absolutely justified. Being honest, if I had to rank all of the like High Republic books, the adult novels are gonna fall lower on that ranking.
I get it.
Not that I don't love them. I love all the High Republic books. It's just something's got to come in last place.
Yeah.
But I am a sucker for an audio drama.
Mm-hmm.
I would say I probably enjoyed Cataclysm more than Battle of Jeddah.
Mm-hmm.
But I loved Battle of Jeddah. I loved Creighton in it. I loved Ada in it. I was this close to con crunching an Ada cosplay for Celebration.
You could do it.
I mean, I made my Ishnar Tikaratal mask, so I could make another Nikto mask. It's just I don't know if I want my apartment to smell like raw natural latex again.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
But for me, like one of the things that I really enjoyed about Battle of Jeddah, and it's not just the battle itself, it's all of the stuff that we've gotten with the various force religions and force cults
Yes.
and all of that. And Cavan has definitely laid the groundwork for that in the comic series.
Yes.
But with this, it was like we really got to see some of them. Like we didn't know much about the Church of the Force, and we get a lot about the Church of the Force in that audio drama.
The comics
Mhm.
and the audio drama tied together so well
Yeah.
this phase. Like, absolutely, I understand the criticisms of like having the audio drama be such a linchpin of the phase.
hmm
Because like Tempest Runner was very much like you could get the full story of phase one without listening to Tempest Runner. It's
Yeah.
just that Tempest Runner adds on top of it. And Tempest Runner also tied into the comics a bit,
It
but
did.
Battle of Jeddah is like the pivot point of phase two.
hmm
It is intimately tied in with the comics. Battle of Jeddah is actually how I like I put the timeline side by side of like the comics and Battle of Jeddah, and this whole run of High Republic comics is really just Vildar Mac and the terrible, no good, very bad day. Because it's literally a single like he arrives in like midday on the day before the Battle of Jeddah,
Yeah.
and then he gets knocked out in the morning in that bombing that is mentioned in Battle of Jeddah. So you can exactly put like synchronized watches. This is what's happening. And then he's at the Herald's speech that incites the battle.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, this is like 1-to-1.
Yeah.
And it is phenomenal. I, as a like High Republic completionist, I loved it.
Yes. And I got to tell you, George brought everything with that story. He really did. Like he did such a great job with that book
George,
and drama, I should say.
yeah, George, all of his phase two stories were like home runs, knocked him out
Yeah.
of the park.
Yeah.
I mean, we've only gotten 2 issues of the Nameless Terror. I'm loving
Yeah,
it so far.
I still need to read the second issue.
I yeah.
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 And I need to read Claudia's one shot now too.
If you it's not okay. If you liked the things that were set up for like the phase one connections that were set up towards the end of Cataclysm, you're going to very much enjoy the second issue of the Nameless Terror.
Okay.
And I will also say that the second issue of or that the Nameless Terror in general connects a lot actually with not as much Cataclysm, but with the other 2 Wave 2 books.
Oh yeah, because the one guy from Quest from the Hidden Cities in the Nameless Terror.
Yeah. So Rock is in it.
Yeah. That's his name, Rock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then obviously the Path is in it.
Yeah. Yeah. Which I gotta tell you, I love the Path of the Open Hand as villains. They're so good.
Well, do I not have it near me? I made for Celebration what I call the Path of the Open Hand bag. It is a black tote bag with 3 wavy blue lines across it and written in
Nice.
Orabesh underneath as gifts freely given.
Nice.
I carried around my pins in it to give out as gifts freely given. Yeah.
I did see your Path of the Open Hand t-shirt that you were wearing in one video too.
Yes.
Yeah.
I, the Force will be free.
The Force will be free.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I can go on and on about this.
Yeah. Phase 2, I have loved it. I'm very excited for the last couple stories that we're getting in it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very excited for the manga.
Yes. Yes. The manga's so good.
Very excited for the manga. Very excited for the rest of High Republic Adventures, the rest of the High Republic comics, and the rest of Nameless Terror.
So
Yeah.
so I have to ask you, you're picking up the omnibus, right? You're picking up Cavan's omnibus?
Probably.
For the comics? Yeah, because I mean, I'm talking about the Phase 1 omnibus that they're releasing in October.
Honestly, the one that I'm more excited for is the Phase 1 Adventures omnibus.
Yeah, that's June now, I think, right?
Because one, it's so annoying that you can't get the third volume.
No.
Especially now with IDW, the news out of IDW.
Yeah.
Which they produce some of my favorite comics, so I'm like,
IDW is an amazing publisher.
Yeah. Sad to see what's happening with them.
Yeah.
Read the Star Trek comics, which feels sacrilegious to say in a Star Wars
No,
show,
I mean,
but
we've talked Trek before.
I am. I'm not super deep into Trek, but I'm loving the current comics run. I'm a sucker for Spock doing war crimes. That's really what it comes down to.
I mean, I also did see the cover with Data and Spot having his own little delta on his collar. Yeah.
Spock in the Defiant comic is Spock at his most feral. So I am a big fan of the fact that even though at first you would think that Spock would be the logical gentleman and Kirk would be the crazy little monster man, but then one of them has a cushy desk job and the other one is wanted by the Federation and has shoot on sight tagged over his head. And Spock's not in the desk job. Back to Star Wars.
Yeah.
I'm super excited for that also because I'm just really excited to see everything next to each other, the whole story. I love Harvey Tolibao and Tony Bruno's art. I am really excited for the upcoming High Republic Adventures 2 issues where they start the Battle of Jeddah, and I think for those 2 issues, it's going to be Harvey doing the art.
Yes.
I love both Harvey and Tony's art style.
That's right, because it's a split cover of Sav Maligan. Yeah. You muted.
Yeah, of Sav covers. I love Connecting.
Yeah.
But
yeah, me too.
I think that Harvey's much more detailed style, much more intricate style, is going to be really, really fun for the Battle of Jeddah.
Yeah.
That being said, I love Tony's more kind of evocative, expressive style for the the pirate interactions and the Dank Grax. I'm excited for this next issue because we're apparently getting a lot of Saya in the next issue, and she seems very interesting. I'm very excited to. What was Daniel's pitch for her was Zabrak Wednesday Addams, and I'm very excited to see more of her.
Yes.
Very excited for the rest of the High Republic comics. Vildar, Tay, Maddie, they're a fantastic trio.
Yes.
Excited for whatever is happening in the deserts of Jeddah. And I'm excited for whatever continues to happen in the Nameless Terror, because Corrin and Rock really seem to be going through it.
Yeah.
But we know that at least Corrin has to get out because he's the one who passes along the story to Ty.
Yes. So we have phase 3 coming up in October. We know that George is writing the first adult novel.
And if it's anything like his phase 2 novels, phase 2 works, it's going to knock it out of the park.
So let's make a prediction about the soon-to-be teased project, or the project that they teased us with, that's going to officially kick off phase 3. I'm thinking audio drama.
Audio drama would be interesting. I'm thinking, and this is mostly based on how Cataclysm went, I'm thinking it'll be part of phase 3. Like, I think it'll focus on a character from phase 3, but I think it might take place before phase 1, between phase 1 and 2.
Okay.
I think it's going to be another like prequel type book, but it's not really part of phase 2. Because as much as phase 2 does tie into the other 2 phases, I think maybe this is just me hoping. But yeah, I can also see it being an audio drama, because it being an audio drama would be an awesome way to kick it off.
Yeah.
And if it is an audio drama, I really hope that it's Master Keeve Trennis aboard the Geos.
Yes. What if? Okay, I'm just gonna speculate here.
We're just spitballing here.
Yeah. What if it's a game that they haven't announced and haven't even released a trailer for?
That would be bonkers.
Because there are multiple studios working on Star Wars projects right now.
That would be bonkers. I would.
Yeah,
I would go. I would. I mean, like, that would be shocking, but I would not complain.
I doubt that it will happen.
I doubt that it would happen.
Yeah.
But I think audio drama, or just a novel that they didn't want to announce, because that's the other reason I'm thinking it could be something that ties in more to phase 2.
Yeah.
Because since phase 2 hasn't ended yet, they didn't want to like reveal things.
Yeah.
Because like I don't think it's a spoiler to say that there are things in Path of Vengeance that it's like, oh yeah, you can't talk about anything that happens immediately after with regards to this without spoiling what happens.
Yeah.
That tends to be how books are.
Yeah.
You know, we all remember the people being spoiled about Loden by the preview of Trail of Shadows. R.I.P. Loden. But yeah, I mean, whatever it is, I'm gonna eat it up because it's the High Republic, and I love the High Republic.
Yes.
I love Star Wars, but especially the High Republic.
Yeah, I mean, I've said this before and I'll say it again. This whole thing just reinvigorated my love for this franchise, and just reinvigorated everything that I love about Star Wars. And you know, I talk about how like not every project needs to have a Force user or a Jedi or anything, but like this having Jedi and all of these characters, it's cool. And we live in a great time as Star Wars fans, and High Republic fans are eating real good right now.
We're eating real good.
Um,
I think it's becoming very clear that the High Republic is very much intended to be the, like, since the Skywalker saga has ended, it is very much clear that it is intended to be like the next era of storytelling. They're moving it into live action with Acolyte. We've got Vanessa Rowe coming to Acolyte. Oh my God, I sobbed when that was announced. I had to touch up my Yana Rowe makeup afterward. We have Young Jedi Adventures coming out next week.
Yeah.
Nash Nation represent. We've got Survivor. And we've got Phase 3 coming out. They're spreading it out more.
They are.
Which I am excited about because sometimes it feels like everything's happening on top of each other. And like when two books release on the same day and you got to be like, which one do I read first? Hey, Michael Siglane, which one do I read first?
Well, that and it's less pressure on your wallet.
It's less pressure on your wallet and it's less pressure on your time.
Yes, I would agree.
Not everyone can do what I did and wake up the second that the ebook for Quest for Planet X loads and read it all in a single sitting. Yeah.
Well, that's going to be it for us this week. Leah, thank you. And it was awesome to hear about your celebration experience. It was fun talking Return of the Jedi with you because I love that you love that movie as much as I do. Because
it is. I go back and forth on whether it's my favorite, but it is definitely my favorite of VOT.
It is. Yeah, I would agree. Got him. Sorry. my cat's being an asshole. Yeah, and it was fun talking Jedi Survivor and talking to High Republic. Yeah, we're gonna have you on again real soon.
Absolutely.
And yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun. But for now, that's gonna be it for us. We are not here next week, but we'll be back in 2 weeks, so stay tuned for that. We are going to have updates from the Star Wars baseball game that we're doing, so you'll see costumes and we'll do some like Twitter Live or Instagram Live or what have you.
Very exciting.
Yeah. And then don't forget, we've got the High Republic panel coming to AwesomeCon. That is it. So have a wonderful week. May the Force be with you. May you always fight for light and life. And remember, at the end of the day, we are all the Republic.